Kia ora katoa. Good afternoon, everybody. Did you like my mask? My flatmate gave it to me. I think she chose to give it to me because something about a big mouth, and it probably suited me, something like that anyway. But it's it's caused quite a bit of amusement around the place. Small children point and laugh, and older people actually, ask where they can get one. I left off the last video. We were talking about when I went to hospital. The first night in hospital, they scraped the glass out of my eye with a cotton bud, like you used to clean your ears out with, and the without anaesthetic or any drops in my eyes or anything like that, and I crashed out of it when they tried to straighten my leg out. I'm sure, it must have been just the pain. I've never been knocked out by anything, but I've been unconscious because of pain more than once. But this time, it was the next morning before I woke up. I'm sure while I was out to it, they would have had a go at my wrist. There's lots of small bones, and there's the bigger bones that break as well, but lots of small bones get dislocated and things like that in your wrist. And so I woke up in the morning with a bandage around my wrist, and my eye with a patch on it where they'd taken the glass out, and I had my leg in traction, which was sort of like a I don't know, sort of held my leg up in the air a little bit, and then after the knee it went out straight a bit, but just below my knee they'd put a pin through my bone and a stirrup. I was actually awake while they did that. That was sort of that was an anaesthetic thing, but local anaesthetic. It sort of freaked me out a bit. They didn't really explain what they were doing, but after this, there was a stirrup at the end of the pin through my leg, and a rope came off that, and hanging off the end of a sort of pulley was 15 pounds in weight. That was to keep my leg, keep it straight, keep everything sort of in place, I suppose, and to stop it shortening or anything like that, because your tendons and ligaments tend to pull together, and if you don't do something like that, it becomes shorter. My friends, they thought it was great, this traction thing. They would come in and they would lift up the weights and watch my knee go backwards, and then they'd put the weights back down again and watch it go forwards and lift it up again. After a week or two, I thought, it's not a good game after all. I've had enough of this. But they thought it was great. But my wrist, after a week of being in hospital, or a few days anyway, they took me downstairs. It was the ambulance driver and a locum from the emergency department. The administrator of the hospital was actually an orthopaedic surgeon, that come and did his rounds every day and stuff like that. He wasn't there at all, but the ambulance driver and the locum was. And this is in the days before ambulance drivers were paramedics or anything like that. Obviously the driver had seen a lot of accidents, and he'd been doing it for quite a while, so he had a reasonable knowledge of injuries and things like that. But what they did was they took the bandage off, they x-rayed me, and they says, oh well, it's not right. So what they did is they gave me a local anaesthetic in my wrist, and as always, well, with me anyway, no one waited long enough for the anaesthetic to work properly. Well, that's what I thought. And they proceeded to re-break all the bones and manipulate my wrist. They push underneath and the bone would pop up here, and they twist it and pull it and do things like that. And I felt it, whether it was in my mind or whether it was because the anaesthetic hadn't worked yet. I could feel it all right. Oh geez, and it made quite a bit of noise. So what they did is they just called me a wimp and says, you've had your anaesthetic, you can't feel anything. But I knew bloody well that I could. And I was only 15, so you try doing that to a 15-year-old. If you want to blow a 15-year-old's mind, do things like that to them, on a regular basis, and they soon decide that life's not such a great place after all. But anyway, they bandaged my wrist back up again and sent me upstairs back to my ward, and a week later they wheeled me back down and x-rayed me again, and it's still not right. So the local anaesthetic again, and I watched them push bones, twist, pull, did all sorts of things like that, the same guys. And again they called me a wimp, because I was sort of making a bit of noise about it. They wheeled me back up to the ward, and a week later they wheeled me back down again and x-rayed me and says, look, it's still not right, we'll have to do it again. And I says, like hell you are. I says, you're not touching it anymore. They says, oh well, it's not right, you've got to get it fixed. And I says, no I don't. I says, it's my body, I'll decide what's going to happen with it. There was no parental guidance or anything for me. My father visited once in the first day or two that I was in the hospital, and that was about it for this day. So I told them what wasn't going to happen, and they wheeled me back up to the ward, and they says, oh well, it's your fault, if it's not right and that. And I thought, well, there's an orthopaedic surgeon here, he should have been putting pins and plates and wires and all sorts of things, in my wrist. Not not you guys, a locum who's sort of probably going to be a GP and an ambulance driver, for God's sake. They were deciding what my knee needed, my wrist needed. So they wheeled me back up into the ward, and it's sort of when you're in hospital for any length of time, you get used to things, and well, you get used to anything after any length of time, and life just goes on, and so I was in there for 3 months in traction. And I got comfortable, and put on a little bit of weight with the meals. I was a bit skinny beforehand, but I don't know what's happened to that now. But I got on well with most of the nurses and things like that. it was just life as it was for me. You know, it was a bit depressing when my friends would come and tell me about the parties they'd been to and what fun they'd had and everything else. But, you know, what could I do? I was stuck in bed. Just the beginning of December, 3 months was up, and they let me out of hospital, and yeah, on crutches and everything obviously, but I wasn't allowed to put any weight on my leg, and you know, I was too scared to put any weight on my leg anyway. The beginning of December, my birthday was, you know, early in December, so I was out for my birthday, out for Christmas. New Year's Eve came and I went to a party at my friend, who I always ended up getting into trouble with. Went to a party at his house, and during the night someone had sort of taken off with my crutches. It was sort of the thing to do. You either pretend that you've got a broken leg and you're hobbling around, or, you know, someone will be hit over the head with it for a joke or something like that, you know. So I wasn't surprised to see that I didn't have crutches anymore, but as 12 o'clock came around and the clock was striking, I started hopping around all through the house on my one good leg, wishing everyone a happy new year. Now the house was pretty run down where he lived. It was going to be demolished not too much longer, later anyway, but there were threadbare carpets where, you know, you would get the twine would come up through the carpet in the most walked areas, and I got my good foot stuck underneath one of these pieces, and that tripped me over, and I fell down and landed on my knee of my bad leg, and I sort of closed my eyes as it happened, and I could hear the cracking and the you know, the noise of popping and things like that, you know, of the bone breaking again, and you know, I just couldn't believe it. You know, I was going back to hospital again.